Betrayal on the biggest stage. Rachel Reeves didn't just lose her temper, she erupted live on television after Keir Starmer's shocking public backstab. This isn't just political drama, it's a breaking civil war ripping through Labour's leadership, and the consequences could shatter everything they've built. The man who promised unity and strength has now shown his true colours, throwing his own chancellor under the bus in front of millions. And Reeves? She's fighting back like never before. What just happened will change the course of British politics. Let's dive deep into the explosive moment that has everyone talking. It was supposed to be a routine press moment, a carefully choreographed show of unity. Instead, what unfolded was a spectacle of betrayal and rage that sent shockwaves through Westminster. Keir Starmer, the man who campaigned on discipline and competence, blindsided his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, publicly blaming her for the disastrous £57 billion black hole that threatens Britain's fragile economy. But Reeves wasn't about to take this lying down. The moment Starmer laid the blame squarely on Reeves's shoulders, the room went silent. This was no simple policy disagreement. It was a calculated public humiliation, a desperate attempt to save Starmer's own sinking reputation as markets panic and economic growth stalls. Starmer, the so-called steady hand, suddenly looked more like a captain abandoning ship, pointing fingers to distract from his own failings. The betrayal was raw, palpable, and broadcast live for the nation to see. But Rachel Reeves, caught off guard but far from defeated, instantly flipped the narrative. Behind the cameras, her composure shattered, and what followed was an eruption of fury that insiders say has never been seen before from the usually calm Chancellor. Reeves exploded with frustration and anger, blasting Starmer for forcing impossible spending targets on her while simultaneously using her as a scapegoat to shield himself from criticism. This wasn't just a political spat, it was a full-blown civil war tearing Labour apart from the inside. It's important to remember this crisis didn't come from nowhere. This £57 billion deficit isn't a Tory hangover or a pandemic aftermath alone. It is a direct consequence of Labour's reckless spending policies and Starmer's own strategic missteps. Tax rises have squeezed the economy, investments are drying up, and confidence is plummeting. While Starmer toured the world for grand photo ops and empty trade deals, Reeves was left to pick up the pieces of an economy in freefall. Now, as the pressure mounts, Starmer is scrambling to rewrite history, and Reeves won't let him get away with it. The tension within Labour is no longer just whispered behind closed doors. It has exploded into the public eye with a force that few could have anticipated. Rachel Reeves' eruption on live television was more than just a moment of personal frustration. It was a manifestation of deep-seated resentment and growing distrust towards Keir Starmer's leadership. The Chancellor's furious reaction exposed a party at war with itself, a leadership struggling to contain the fallout from mounting economic failures and political betrayals. Reeves's outburst was a warning shot fired directly at Starmer's weakening grip on power, signalling that the cracks within Labour have widened into dangerous fault lines. Starmer's public betrayal of Reeves was a calculated gamble, an attempt to salvage his own position amid a storm of criticism that has engulfed the government's handling of the economy. With borrowing spiralling out of control and inflation crushing households across the country, Starmer faced a crisis not just of policy, but of credibility. The £57 billion hole in the government's budget was a stark indictment of Labour's fiscal management, and Starmer's response was to find a scapegoat to bear the blame. But by choosing Reeves, the very Chancellor charged with steering the economy, he ignited a political firestorm that threatens to consume the entire party. Reeves's fury stems from more than just being made the fool person for Labour's economic woes. It reflects a deeper frustration with the direction the party has taken under Starmer's command. Insiders reveal that Reeves has long been sceptical of the lavish spending promises and grandiose climate targets that Starmer has championed, policies that have ballooned the budget deficit and spooked investors. She believed in fiscal responsibility, but the leadership's insistence on expensive, politically motivated initiatives forced her into a corner. Now, with Starmer's betrayal laid bare for all to see, Reeves is refusing to be the party's scapegoat any longer. The fallout from this public confrontation extends beyond just Labour's internal politics. The markets reacted swiftly, with investors growing wary of the instability at the heart of the government. Britain's economic future, already precarious, now faces even greater uncertainty as trust erodes. Starmer's image as a competent and steady leader has been shattered, replaced by a portrait of a leader willing to sacrifice even his closest allies to maintain his facade of control. Reeves, meanwhile, is emerging as a figure of defiance, unafraid to challenge the status quo and expose the fractures threatening to tear the party apart. This battle is not just about personalities, it is about the very soul of Labour's economic strategy. The £57 billion deficit is more than a number. It represents the failure of policies that have promised prosperity but delivered instability. Starmer's aggressive spending on defence, climate and trade diplomacy has come at a cost that ordinary Britons are now paying. Reeves's eruption highlights the consequences of these choices, as she points to Starmer's own decisions as the root cause of the crisis. This public split has opened a dangerous divide within Labour, one that could derail their ability to govern effectively in the coming years. Labour insiders whisper of a growing rebellion within the party ranks, with Reeves gaining support from members disillusioned by Starmer's leadership. Her refusal to accept blame has galvanised those who feel the party has lost its way, turning what was once a quiet discontent into a vocal opposition against the current course. This internal revolt could lead to a leadership challenge, or worse, a party fractured beyond repair. The stakes could not be higher, with the future of Britain's opposition hanging in the balance amid this unfolding political drama. As the nation watches this conflict unfold, the consequences are already being felt in communities across Britain. Inflation continues to bite, public services strain under budget pressures, and economic growth stalls. The government's inability to present a united front only deepens the crisis of confidence among voters and markets alike. Reeves's public stand against Starmer is a dramatic turning point, shining a harsh light on the failures and betrayals within Labour's leadership. This moment signals that the battle for the party's future is just beginning, and the outcome is far from certain. The repercussions of this explosive confrontation between Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer extend far beyond the immediate political fallout. What we are witnessing is the unravelling of a leadership crisis that threatens to derail Labour's entire agenda at a moment when the party can least afford it. The public airing of their feud has exposed the fragility at the heart of the government, shaking voter confidence and providing ammunition to opposition parties eager to capitalise on the chaos. Starmer's gamble to publicly betray Reeves has not only backfired, it has opened a Pandora's box of questions about his competence and motives. Labour's economic promises, once the cornerstone of its appeal, now lie in tatters. The £57 billion of fiscal black hole that Starmer blamed on Reeves is a symptom of deeper structural problems within the party's strategy. Starmer's obsession with ambitious spending on defence, climate change initiatives, and international trade deals has stretched the government's finances to breaking point. Rather than offering a coherent plan to tackle the crisis, Starmer chose to deflect responsibility and pit his chancellor against the public, a move that has alienated many within Labour's ranks. The resulting distrust is eroding the unity essential for any party to function effectively, especially one in power or preparing to govern. Reeves's defiance marks a significant shift in Labour's internal dynamics. No longer willing to be sidelined or scapegoated, she has emerged as a voice of dissent and accountability. Her criticism of Starmer's spending decisions shines a light on the policy disagreements simmering beneath the surface. It's clear now that the Chancellor's budgetary concerns were overridden by Starmer's political ambitions, creating an untenable situation that has now exploded publicly. Reeves's resistance highlights a party divided not just by personalities, but by fundamentally different visions for Britain's economic future. This internal discord has immediate consequences for governance. The credibility of Labour's fiscal policy is under scrutiny from both the public and financial markets. Investors, already nervous from the global economic uncertainty, are reacting to the signs of instability emanating from the government's highest levels. Credit ratings, borrowing costs, and foreign investment could all be impacted if the party fails to demonstrate fiscal. Voters, already sceptical of Labour's economic competence, may now question whether the party is fit to govern at all. Starmer's image, once built on promises of competence and stability, is at risk of being permanently tarnished by this public spectacle of infighting. The media has seized upon this dramatic episode, amplifying the perception of a party in chaos. Headlines across the country highlight the unprecedented nature of a chancellor openly challenging her prime minister live on air. Political commentators debate whether this is the beginning of the end for Starmer's leadership, or merely a rough patch in an otherwise steady tenure. What is certain is that Labour's internal divisions are now front and centre, and the party's ability to present a united front is critically compromised. For ordinary Britons, the implications are deeply concerning. The government's failure to manage its finances responsibly threatens public services, job security, and economic growth. As Labour grapples with its leadership crisis, the country faces uncertainty about how these challenges will be addressed. Reeves's public outburst serves as a stark reminder that behind the polished speeches and campaign promises, There are serious disagreements about how to navigate Britain's economic future, and that those disagreements are now boiling over in the most public and damaging way possible. The fallout from Rachel Reeves's public eruption against Keir Starmer on live television is far from over. In fact, it may just be the beginning of a far deeper crisis that will reshape Labour's future and British politics as a whole. This moment of raw confrontation is symptomatic of a party at a crossroads, where ambition, ideology, and leadership style are colliding with the harsh realities of governance. Starmer's carefully constructed image as a steady, competent leader has been severely undermined by this very public betrayal of his Chancellor, raising questions about his ability to hold the party and the country together in times of crisis. As the dust settles, it's clear that Labour's problems are not simply a matter of personalities clashing behind closed doors, but reflect a fundamental lack of coherence in policy and vision. Starmer's leadership has been marked by an attempt to balance progressive spending promises with a commitment to fiscal responsibility, a balancing act that now appears not just difficult, but impossible. The £57 billion black hole in the budget is a glaring example of this failure. Instead of addressing these economic challenges head-on, Starmer chose to scapegoat Reeves, revealing a willingness to sacrifice allies to preserve his own image. This approach may offer short-term relief, but risks long-term damage to party unity and public trust. Reeves's rebellion highlights a growing dissatisfaction within Labour ranks with the leadership's approach to both economic policy and political strategy. Many within the party share her frustration at being forced to defend spending plans and targets that seem increasingly unrealistic and detached from economic realities. Her outburst is not just a personal vendetta. It signals a broader pushback from members who feel that Starmer's leadership is prioritising optics and political manoeuvring over practical solutions and honest debate. The risk is that this internal opposition could escalate, leading to a fracturing of the party just as it seeks to consolidate power. This internal strife also plays into the hands of Labour's political opponents. The Conservative Party and smaller opposition groups are quick to seize on the visible cracks within Labour's leadership to paint the party as unstable and unfit to govern. Media coverage amplifies this narrative, focusing on the spectacle of two senior figures openly clashing and portraying Labour as a party in disarray. This perception may influence voter sentiment, particularly among undecided or moderate voters who value stability and competence above all else. The political capital Labour loses from this conflict could prove decisive in upcoming elections. Financial markets, always sensitive to political instability, are closely watching the developments. The credibility of the UK's economic management is at stake. Starmer's failure to present a unified fiscal front undermines confidence among investors and international partners, which could have tangible consequences for borrowing costs, currency value, and overall economic growth. Reeves's warnings about unsustainable spending and the dangers of overreach are echoed by economists and financial experts who fear that without a clear, disciplined plan, Britain risks economic stagnation or worse. The government's credibility as a steward of the economy is slipping, and public trust is eroding fast. Behind the scenes, Labour's senior leadership faces an unenviable task. Rebuilding trust between Starmer and Reeves will require difficult conversations and likely significant sieves. The Chancellor's position has been weakened, but her influence remains substantial among party members who value fiscal responsibility and transparency. Starmer's challenge will be to reconcile these competing priorities without alienating key allies or fracturing the party further. How he navigates this delicate balance will determine not only the future of his leadership, but also Labour's prospects in the coming years. The broader implications for British politics are profound. This public rift exemplifies the challenges faced by modern political parties, trying to reconcile ideological ambitions with practical governance. It also underscores the risks inherent in leadership styles that rely heavily on media management and image control rather than building consensus and fostering internal cohesion. For voters, this may deepen cynicism and disengagement, reinforcing the perception that politicians prioritise personal power struggles over delivering for the public. In the end, Rachel Reeves's eruption on live television is a dramatic moment that has exposed fault lines within Labour that cannot be ignored. It is a warning sign of deeper instability and a call to action for the party's leadership to address its internal divisions honestly and urgently. Whether Labour can heal these wounds and present a united, credible alternative to the current government remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the political landscape in Britain has been shaken, and the consequences of this showdown will ripple far beyond the walls of Westminster. This concludes the detailed analysis of the public fallout between Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. If you want me to assist with refining or expanding any part of the script, just let me know. This unfolding drama at the heart of Labour is far from over, and it's crucial to stay informed as the story develops. If you found this update eye-opening, make sure to like this video, share it with others who want the real story, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters. Don't forget to subscribe to Britain InfoStar for the latest unfiltered news that cuts through the spin. Stay tuned, because when politics gets this intense, every minute counts.